What if the place you ran to for safety was actually the trap you were never meant to escape? That is the disturbing foundation of Cuckoo, a psychological horror film that blends paranoia, identity loss, and surreal terror into a story that feels increasingly unstable as it progresses. From the beginning, the film does not offer comfort. Instead, it creates a world where something feels deeply wrong, even when nothing obvious is happening. At its core, Cuckoo is not just about external threats. It is about disorientation. The feeling of being somewhere unfamiliar, surrounded by people who behave as if everything is normal, while your instincts tell you otherwise. That tension becomes the engine of the entire story. One of the most unsettling aspects of the film is how it slowly breaks down the idea of normality. At first, everything appears controlled, structured, even peaceful. But the longer the protagonist remains in this environment, the more cracks begin to appear. Small details start to feel unnatural. Conversations feel slightly off. People behave in ways that are difficult to interpret. And slowly, the audience begins to experience the same psychological instability as the main character. This is where the film becomes effective horror. Not through violence, but through uncertainty. A major theme in Cuckoo is identity. The film repeatedly questions what makes a person who they are. Is it memory? Behavior? Recognition from others? Or something deeper that cannot be easily explained? As the story unfolds, identity becomes less stable. The protagonist begins questioning not only the environment, but also their own perception of reality. This creates a constant psychological tension where nothing can be fully trusted. Another important layer is control. The environment in the film is not random. It feels managed, almost engineered. The more the protagonist investigates, the more it becomes clear that there are rules operating beneath the surface of what is visible. But those rules are never fully explained. That absence of explanation is intentional. Because fear grows strongest in the space where understanding should exist. One of the hidden details many viewers miss is how the film uses repetition and behavioral patterns. Certain actions occur in cycles. Certain reactions feel rehearsed. Certain moments seem to echo earlier ones with slight variations. This creates the feeling that reality is not progressing naturally, but following a predetermined structure. That structure becomes increasingly disturbing as the story advances. Another key theme is psychological isolation. Even when surrounded by people, the protagonist feels completely alone. Communication fails. Understanding breaks down. An emotional connection becomes nearly impossible. This isolation is not just physical. It is perceptual. No one else seems to notice what is wrong. And that makes the protagonist's experience even more unstable. The film also explores fear of assimilation. As events escalate, the idea emerges that individuality itself may be under threat. The boundaries between self and environment begin to blur, raising the question of whether identity can be preserved in a place that seems designed to reshape it. This creates a deeper layer of existential horror. Because the real danger is not death. It is transformation into something unrecognizable. Visually, Cuckoo reinforces these themes through distortion, framing, and unnatural pacing. Scenes often linger slightly longer than expected. Spaces feel too open or too confined. And movement through the environment often feels disjointed, as if reality itself is slightly out of sync. These subtle techniques amplify the psychological discomfort. As the narrative moves toward its climax, the story shifts from confusion to confrontation. The protagonist is forced to acknowledge that the instability they have been experiencing is not accidental. It is part of a larger pattern that cannot be ignored. But even this realization does not provide clarity. Instead, it deepens the mystery. Because understanding the system does not mean escaping it. The ending of Cuckoo is deliberately unsettling. Rather than offering resolution, it reinforces the idea that some environments cannot be understood in conventional terms. The final moments leave the audience questioning what was real, what was perception, and what was manipulation. The ambiguity is the point. The film suggests that certainty is fragile. And once it begins to break, it may never fully return. What makes Cuckoo effective is not just its horror elements, but its psychological persistence. Long after the story ends, the feeling of unease remains. Not because of what was shown, but because of what was never fully explained. It is a film about losing orientation. about losing trust, and ultimately, about losing the ability to distinguish reality from distortion. And that is where its true horror lies. If you enjoyed this analysis and ending explained, don't forget to subscribe to Movie Story Recaps, share this video with fellow horror fans, and let us know in the comments which movie we should cover next.